I'm Cassandra Barnes, 31, and I built my life the hard way. No shortcuts, just consistency. For years, I quietly covered my sister's tuition, rent, and emergencies while our parents praised her and leaned on me. But when she barred me from her graduation and sent me an $80,000 student loan bill, I made a decision that changed everything. Ever been taken for granted by the people you gave everything to? If that hit close to home, drop your story in the comments. You're not alone. Before I dive in, tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to draw a line and finally put yourself first, hit like and subscribe for more true stories about reclaiming your worth. Because what happened next caught everyone off guard. I'm the oldest of two girls. From the outside, our family looked balanced enough. Two working parents, a suburban house, a Labrador named Duke, and two daughters who never got into trouble. But if you spent any time around us, the imbalance was clear. I was the responsible one. The one who remembered birthdays, handled emergencies, and made sure the family group chat didn't completely die. My sister, for years younger, was the spontaneous one. The emotional one. The baby of the family, no matter how old she got. Our parents didn't play favorites out loud. But you don't need the words when the patterns are consistent. From the time we were little, I cleaned up after the messes, both literal and emotional, while my sister had the freedom to make them. She's still figuring things out, Mom would say when my sister skipped class or overdrew her checking account. You've always been the steady one. That became my role without anyone ever officially assigning it. I started working part-time in high school, not because I had to, but because I liked the feeling of being prepared. I opened a savings account before I could drive. I filed my own taxes by 17. Meanwhile, my sister switched majors 3 times in college and called home when she locked herself out of her dorm for the 4th time in one semester. The first time I sent her money was her freshman fall. She needed a textbook, and our parents said they'd already covered what they could. It was $120, and I wired it without thinking. She never said thank you. Just replied, got it. I told myself that was enough. That she was stressed or distracted, or just not great with words. Then it happened again. A security deposit she couldn't cover. A cracked phone screen. A surprise travel expense when her roommate bailed on spring break plans. Each time, she came to me indirectly, sometimes through our mom, sometimes through hints in group messages. Your sister's really struggling this semester, Mom would say. It's been hard on her. If you could help, it'd mean a lot. And I always could help. So I did. Not because I felt pressured, though I probably did, but because I thought that's what families did. If one person could carry more weight, they just did. Quietly. By her second year, it had become routine. I'd send money without being asked directly. She needed a new laptop because hers finally died mid-semester. Our parents were in a rough financial spot, so I bought her a MacBook. Didn't tell anyone at work. Didn't even put it on a credit card. Just paid for it outright. She posted a photo of it later that week. A boomerang of her typing in a coffee shop with the caption, Finals SZN. I didn't comment. Sometimes she'd mention needing help with rent. Sometimes she'd just say, I'm really underwater right now, and I'd fill in the rest. I didn't track how much I gave. That would have made it feel transactional. And in my mind, it wasn't. Our parents never gave me money for any of it. But they gave praise, just enough to keep the gears turning. She's lucky to have you, my dad said once, after I'd helped cover her unpaid course fees so she could register for spring classes. Not everyone has a sister like that. That comment stuck with me. Not in a warm way. More like a quiet resignation. They expected me to step in. Not because they didn't care, but because they saw me as the one who could. And my sister? She was still growing. Still finding herself. Still needing more time. I never minded the role, not really. It gave me purpose. And it felt good to be needed. I figured one day it would all even out. That maybe when I had kids, or bought a house, or faced some big expense, someone would step in for me. Or at least notice the ways I'd stepped in for others. But that moment never came. Over time, it shifted from occasional help to quiet dependency. Our parents started phrasing things differently. We're trying to let her focus on school. She's already under so much pressure. You know how hard the job market is now. I heard those lines enough times that they stopped landing. I was working full-time by then, handling my own student loans. I lived alone, budgeted carefully, and still sent money when needed. The imbalance didn't explode. It just calcified, slowly. I became the safety net, the unacknowledged fallback plan. I knew her bank's routing number better than her birthday. I kept track of her tuition deadlines so she wouldn't lose classes. I'd send reminders about FAFSA, renew her financial aid applications for her, and once stayed up late writing her appeal letter when she lost her scholarship due to GPA. She didn't ask. She just assumed I would. That was the thing. There was never gratitude. Never a moment where she looked at me and said, "You didn't have to do that, but thank you." It wasn't cruel. It was casual. Dismissive. Like she had absorbed the idea that I was just the type of person who did things for people. And she was the type of person people did things for. The only time I ever brought it up, carefully, trying not to sound bitter, was when she asked me to cover part of her car insurance. She'd been driving under my name for years. I said, "It might be good if you could start budgeting for this stuff. I've been handling it for a while." She paused, then replied, "Well, I didn't ask you to." It wasn't defensive. It was matter of fact. And she was right. She hadn't asked. I had just filled in the blank spaces. At some point, our parents stopped even pretending they'd chip in. When her senior year started, I was essentially sponsoring it. Rent. Groceries. A portion of her tuition that scholarships hadn't covered. She wanted to study abroad one semester, said it was the only way she could stay competitive in her field. I wired her $3,000. She sent back a photo of the Eiffel Tower a week later with the caption, "Living." It's not that I resented her, at least not consciously. But there was a shift I couldn't unfeel. A sense that I'd become invisible. Necessary, but not seen. Like the Wi-Fi in her apartment. Always on. Only noticed when it didn't work. That's how things stayed. Me, in the background. Her, front and center. Until the graduation. Until the invitation that never came. Until the bill that did. The distance didn't happen all at once. At first, it was just delayed replies. I'd send her a message, sometimes about money, sometimes just checking in, and it would take hours, sometimes days, to hear anything back. "Sorry, been crazy busy," became her default excuse. Then she stopped answering calls altogether. I'd leave a voicemail about FAFSA deadlines or checking her account balance before her next rent was due, and she'd reply 2 days later with something like, "Already handled." Thanks though. She hadn't handled it. I had, just like always. Around that time, her Instagram started to shift. It wasn't just pictures of campus anymore. Suddenly she was tagging new friends I'd never heard of, posing at rooftop bars and trendy brunch spots, using captions like, "Grind now, shine later," or "Work hard, rest harder." I noticed the changes quietly. I didn't bring it up because I wasn't sure what it would accomplish. We'd never had that kind of relationship. We weren't best friends. We weren't even close, really. We just had a long-standing system where I showed up when she needed something, and she accepted it. But the curated version of her life online felt different. It wasn't just a highlight reel. It was a performance. Like she was trying to rewrite the story of who she was, one where the messy parts never existed, and the help she got didn't count. One photo in particular stuck with me. Her on the beach in Tulum, drink in hand, captioned, "Manifesting abundance." That same week, I had sent her $400 to cover her share of utilities. I mentioned it to our mom casually, trying not to sound accusatory. "She's been traveling a lot lately. I didn't know she could afford that." Mom paused, then said, "She's finding herself. College is when you do that." It wasn't an answer. But it was a signal. From then on, any concern I raised got filed under "You're being too rigid" or "She's still figuring things out." She's just under a lot of pressure. She's building her network. She's doing things her own way. It wasn't just the vacations. She had a new boyfriend, someone she met in her senior seminar, the son of a venture capitalist, according to what Mom heard. He drove a Tesla and had a family place in the Hamptons. My sister started spending weekends there, posting shots of yachts and wine tastings. I didn't ask questions. Not because I wasn't curious, but because I already knew what the answers would sound like. Vague, defensive, detached. At one point, I texted her a gentle reminder to check her bank account before her scholarship payment processed. It had bounced the last time due to insufficient funds. She replied, "You're always so in control of everything." It must be nice. I stared at the message for a while. It wasn't mean, but it wasn't kind either. There was a tone to it I hadn't heard from her before. Slightly resentful. As if being responsible made me some kind of villain. It's not that she didn't know how much I'd done. She knew. But acknowledging it would have required seeing me as more than a backup plan. Our parents kept the same line. "She's going through a lot right now. She doesn't always express herself well. You two are just in different phases of life." But what they meant was, don't expect her to meet you where you are. Just keep giving. A few months before graduation, she stopped addressing me in the group chat altogether. I noticed it gradually. She'd reply to Dad's questions, send Mom funny memes, but never respond to anything I said. If I asked a direct question about her schedule, about her last tuition installment, it would be met with silence or redirected through our mom. Once, I asked if she needed help registering for her final credits. She never answered. 3 days later, Mom texted me. She said she's good on classes. Try not to hover. Hover. That word hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't realized that was the new narrative. That I wasn't helping, I was hovering. That I wasn't the older sister who had quietly funded her education, but someone who needed to back off. She'd never say it outright. She didn't have to. She was rewriting the story. And in the new version, I was just a character she'd outgrown. The turning point, though, came during one of our last family calls before graduation. It was a group FaceTime, something we did maybe once a month. My sister was at the boyfriend's apartment. There were expensive-looking shelves in the background, a curated display of art books and minimalist decor. We were talking about graduation logistics, who was flying in, where everyone would stay, and I asked if she had confirmed how many tickets she was getting from the university. She paused, barely glanced at the camera, and said, "Oh, I think it's just going to be immediate family. Like, core people. You know?" I smiled to cover the sting. "Well, I'll be there either way." She didn't respond. The call ended not long after. No one mentioned the silence. A week later, Mom sent me an itinerary for the trip, flight details, Airbnb address, dinner reservations. My name wasn't included. When I asked about it, she replied, "We assumed you were busy with work. But if you'd like to come, maybe you can stay nearby." No one said I wasn't welcome. But the message was clear. This moment, this culmination of 4 years I had helped finance, enable, and quietly support, was no longer something I was supposed to be part of. I was background. Again. And still, I didn't say anything. I just went back to work, logged another overtime shift, and waited. Not for an apology. For the next request. Because there was always one coming. The plan had been vague from the start. Our parents were handling the travel, booking flights, arranging dinners, figuring out logistics, and I offered to cover the hotel. I assumed we'd be splitting a suite like we always did, or at the very least staying nearby. No one corrected me. No one said otherwise. I sent over my share early. Reserved the rental car. Took the weekend off work. Even found a pair of navy block heels I could walk in for the ceremony. They were on sale, and I figured if I wasn't going to be in the pictures, I could at least be comfortable. A week before the graduation, I got a text from my sister. No call. No context. "Hey, just so you know, this party's really for family only. No offense, but I think it's better if you skip it." That was it. No punctuation after the second sentence. Just a soft blow delivered flatly. I stared at the screen for a long time, scrolling back through our past messages like maybe there'd be something to explain it. There wasn't. The last thing I'd sent her was a reminder to submit her final loan deferral form. No reply. That had been 2 weeks ago. I didn't answer her right away. I closed the text and opened our family group chat. Asked if someone could confirm the time of the graduation dinner. No one responded. 24 hours later, Mom sent me a private message. "She's under a lot of stress. Try not to take things personally." I replied, I'm just asking if I'm still invited. Her answer came an hour later. It's her day. Don't make it about you. I read that sentence 3 times, then turned off my phone. I didn't cry. I just sat there for a long time, staring at the ceiling like I could will it to cave in and end the conversation for me. It wasn't that I wanted a party. I didn't care about the photo ops or the dinner reservations. But this was a milestone I had helped carry on my back. Quietly. Consistently. Year after year. And now I was being told, casually, with lowercase letters and no punctuation, that it wasn't my place to be there. I kept thinking maybe my dad would say something. He'd always been the more pragmatic one. But when I called to ask him directly, he said, she's worked hard. Just let her enjoy it the way she wants. Then he changed the subject to traffic. The next day, I got an email. No message, no note. Just a forwarded attachment from my sister's university account. The subject line read, when you get the chance. Attached was a PDF invoice from the registrar's office. The heading said remaining tuition balance. The total came to $80,204.76. There was no greeting. No explanation. Just the bill. I sat there with the email open, watching the cursor hover over the reply button. I didn't write anything. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my work email instead and flagged it for later. I needed time. Not to think. Just to feel. Because what I was feeling wasn't confusion. It was clarity. Cold, sharp, unmistakable. They didn't see me. Not as a sister. Not as a daughter. Not as a person who had bent over backward to keep things afloat. I wasn't even background anymore. I was infrastructure. Invisible unless I failed. I thought about every wire transfer, every textbook order, every phone call to the bursar's office. I remembered staying on hold for 40 minutes to help her re-enroll after she missed a payment deadline. The time I covered her rent with 3 days' notice because she'd forgotten to set up autopay. And now, when the final bill came due, when there was nothing left to leverage or delay, it was sent to me. Not with gratitude. Not even with a request. Just a subject line, when you get the chance. It was the most honest thing she'd said in months. That same afternoon, I got a call from our mom. She sounded upbeat. Tense, but upbeat. Just checking in, she said. Wanted to make sure you saw the information about the venue. What venue? Oh, she said quickly. I guess she didn't tell you. There's a small gathering after the ceremony. Just close friends and family. I didn't answer. We didn't want to make it a big thing, she continued, but it felt right to celebrate. She's worked so hard. Who's going? There was a pause. Well, the family. Her boyfriend's parents. A few of the girls from her cohort. The ones she's close to. Right. And I think her advisor. Maybe his wife. Sounds great. You're always so calm, she said, almost laughing. That's what I've always admired about you. I didn't say anything. She cleared her throat. I know this must be hard. But you've had your own life for a while now. It's not like you're in school anymore. Things are just different. Yeah, I said. They are. We hung up soon after. I went back to my desk, opened the invoice, and read every line. Then I picked up the phone and called the university's financial office. Hi, I said. I'm listed as a third-party contributor on a student's account. I'd like to revoke any future sponsorship immediately. And I'd like written confirmation that I'm no longer liable or expected to contribute further. The woman on the other end sounded surprised, but polite. Yes, of course, she said. We'll update the file and send you a formal release document. That night, I transferred every document to a backup drive and deleted the rest from my phone. Bank statements. Tuition records. Email chains. I blocked my sister's number. Not out of anger. Just out of necessity. There's a difference between love and obligation. And for the first time in years, I realized I'd confused the two. I wasn't angry at her. Not really. She had simply done what she'd always done, expected more without asking. The difference was I had finally stopped offering. And once that pattern broke, there wasn't anything left between us but silence. Not tension. Not bitterness. Just absence. And that was new. And necessary. I didn't do anything right away. I let the email sit in my inbox for a full day. Didn't open it again, didn't reply, didn't delete it. Just watched it sit there like a stain. The subject line, "when you get the chance," floated above the bolded PDF attachment like it was nothing more than a casual ask. Not a number that could buy a car or start a business or cover a down payment. Just a bill. Forwarded like a shared calendar invite. That night, I forwarded it to my closest friend, Maya, with a single line. "Is this a joke?" She called immediately. "What am I looking at?" "Tuition balance." "For who?" I didn't answer. "Oh my God," she said. "She sent this to you?" Forwarded. No message. I expected her to laugh. Maya always laughed when things got too heavy. But this time, there was just silence on the other end. "You're not paying that, right?" "No," I said. But I don't think that was the question. It wasn't a request. It was a default. Like leaving a dish in the sink and assuming someone else would clean it. I hung up and sat on my couch for a long time, watching the lights outside flicker on across the neighborhood. Families getting ready for dinner. Dogs being walked. Curtains being drawn. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made, not in some dramatic, self-pitying way, just in sequence. The overtime shifts I took when I could have spent weekends with friends. The vacation I skipped to help her cover her first study abroad deposit. The Christmas I worked through so she could fly home and surprise our parents, even though I couldn't afford the plane ticket myself. They cried when she walked through the door. No one asked why I hadn't come. I thought about the quiet things, the loan interest I paid without complaint. The time I canceled a dentist appointment because she needed the copay money. The times I sent food delivery to her apartment when she said she couldn't think straight enough to cook. I thought about how none of it had ever been acknowledged. Not once. And then I thought about that number, $80,204.76. Not the amount itself, but what it meant. Not, "Thank you." Not, "I'm sorry." Not even, "I need help." Just, "when you get the chance." I kept waiting for my anger to be about the money. But it wasn't. It was about the assumption. The entitlement. The way my role had been reduced to function. Not a person. Not a sister. A sponsor. That word kept circling back in my mind. Not supporter. Not helper. Sponsor. She hadn't just sent me a bill. She had assigned me a role. One she felt comfortable putting in writing. One she believed I'd never challenge. And honestly, she wasn't wrong to believe that. Up until that moment, I hadn't given her a reason to expect anything different. Our parents were the same. They'd never pushed her to repay me. Never even acknowledged the imbalance. When I brought it up once, gently, my mom told me I needed to let go of resentment if I wanted to stay close to my family. Stay close to my family. Like proximity was something I still had. That night, I went back and looked through our family group chat. Scrolled back months. Maybe a year. My name came up almost exclusively when something needed to be solved. "Can you check this for your sister? Can you talk to the loan office? Can you help her submit that form? Are you free to cosign?" But outside of utility, there was no conversation. No interest in my life. No questions about my job, or the apartment I'd moved into, or the promotion I'd quietly received 2 months earlier. They didn't know what I did every day, but they knew I could afford things. And that, apparently, was the relationship. I opened my laptop and typed out a list. Nothing dramatic. Just names and numbers. Rent. Tuition. Flights. Grocery reimbursements. Course fees. Electronics. Phone bills. A running total. I got to $68,000 before I stopped. And that didn't include the final invoice. I didn't cry. I didn't even get mad. It was something quieter than that. Heavier. I wasn't just being used by my sister. I was being used with approval. My parents had co-signed this arrangement with their silence. Their refusal to intervene had been its own kind of instruction. Keep doing what you do. Keep fixing. Keep funding. Don't disrupt the story. The story where she's figuring it out. The story where I have it handled. The story where they get to believe they raised 2 girls who support each other unconditionally, even if only one of us ever actually did the supporting. I sat with it. Not in some poetic way. Just sat. Let it sink in. The weight of being needed but never valued. The exhaustion of being stable in a family that confuses that for endless capacity. Then I opened a new tab and searched the university website. It didn't take long to find the number. Financial services third-party sponsors contact us. I picked up the phone. A woman answered. Warm, efficient, upbeat. Probably had no idea what kind of role she was playing in someone else's boundary being drawn. Hi, I said. I'm listed as a third-party contributor on a student account. I need to revoke any active or future sponsorships. Effective immediately. She asked for the student ID. I had it memorized. Gave it to her without needing to check. There may be some automated drafts still pending, she said. Would you like those canceled? Yes. She paused. And just to confirm, you're formally withdrawing as a financial sponsor for the student? Yes, I said. No further payments. No further obligations. Please send written confirmation for my records. She asked for my email. I gave it. Then I hung up. That was it. 10 minutes. No fireworks. No dramatic confrontation. No yelling. Just a decision. Quiet. Clear. Final. I thought I'd feel guilt. That some instinct would kick in, telling me I was being cruel or cold or selfish. Instead, I felt still. Not good. Not bad. Just still. And for the first time in a long time, I realized how much noise I'd been carrying. How much of my identity had been wrapped up in being the one who always said yes. Who always made things work. Who kept the boat from tipping even when it meant bailing water alone. Letting go of that didn't feel like failure. It felt like silence after a storm. And I wasn't sure what came next. But I knew it wouldn't look like this. The confirmation email from the university came just after midnight. A single paragraph, formally worded, confirming that all third-party sponsorship under my name had been revoked and would not be reinstated unless requested in writing. The account had been updated. No further obligations would be expected. I marked it as unread and closed my laptop. It wasn't a triumphant feeling. There was no rush of vindication. Just a quiet shift. Like stepping off a treadmill that had been running so long I'd forgotten how stillness felt. I slept deeper than I had in weeks. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:43. Not a text. A full call. It was my mother. Her voice came sharp and immediate. No preamble. What did you do? I sat up slowly. Good morning. The school called your sister in today. Apparently there's some issue with her account, something about tuition being unpaid. You told me it was all covered. I told you I was handling it, I said calmly. And now I'm not. She's graduating in 4 days. Are you trying to ruin this for her? She forwarded me a bill for $80,000 without a word, I said. And you all made it clear I wasn't part of the celebration. So no, I'm not ruining anything. I'm just stepping out of a situation I never volunteered for. She's devastated. I'm sure she is, I said. But she had options. She just didn't use them. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing, like she was trying to calculate a different angle. We didn't ask you to do all of this. You chose to. And now you're abandoning her at the last second. No, I said. I stopped pretending that helping her came with no cost. She won't be able to walk if this isn't resolved. Then maybe she'll think twice next time she sends someone a 5-figure invoice with no explanation. My mother exhaled sharply, as if I'd just said something unspeakable. You always were the cold one, she said. I didn't answer. She hung up before I could decide if it was worth saying anything. I stared at the screen for a while, then silenced the ringer and placed the phone face down. It didn't stay silent long. By lunch, I had 4 missed calls from my sister and 2 voicemails. The first one was short. I just got pulled into a meeting with student accounts. What is going on? The second came 3 hours later. You're unbelievable. I earned this degree. You can't stand that I'm finally getting something I wanted. You're trying to ruin it because you're jealous. This isn't about money. It's about you needing to feel superior. I replayed that one. Once. Just to make sure I heard it right. Jealous. Of what exactly? Of being erased from my own family's narrative? Of being used as a bank account and cut out of the celebration? It was almost funny. Not because it was absurd, but because it was predictable. That was how the story had always gone. I was reliable until I stopped being useful. Then I was selfish. Bitter. Jealous. The words didn't sting. They just echoed back what I'd already understood. She wasn't angry that I said no. She was angry that I'd finally meant it. By early evening, my dad called. I let it go to voicemail, but he tried again. And again. The fourth time, I picked up. He didn't say hello. "We thought you were better than this." His tone was disappointed. Like I'd broken curfew or gotten a parking ticket. "You were always the responsible one. The one who looked out for everyone. And now, when your sister needs you the most, when she needs me financially," I corrected. "Let's not pretend this is anything else. You know how much we've depended on you." "That's the problem," I said. "You shouldn't have." He went quiet. I waited. "You have the means," he said eventually. "You're not struggling." I didn't say I was. "But that's not the point." "Then what is?" "The point is, I'm not obligated. And I'm done being treated like I am." There was a long pause on his end. "Then, you're punishing her." "No," I said. "She made her choices. I'm done paying for them." "You're going to let her fail?" "She didn't fail. She made it through school. She'll figure this out like everyone else. Maybe for the first time." He hung up without another word. No threats. No begging. Just silence. For the rest of the day, I didn't check my messages. I took a walk. Picked up groceries. Folded laundry. It felt strange at first, doing normal things in the middle of something that, just days earlier, would have consumed me. But nothing cracked. Nothing broke open. That night, I got a text from Maya. "Any fallout?" I replied, "Everyone's mad." But no one asked why I did it. Just why I didn't keep doing it. She replied with a single line. "Exactly. That was it. No big explosion. No apology. No reconciliation. Just everyone showing their cards at once." I wasn't surprised by their disappointment. But I was surprised by how little it moved me. I didn't feel cruel. I felt clear. There was a time when I believed stepping back meant giving up on the people you love. But now I understood something different. It meant refusing to carry the parts of them they should be carrying themselves. And I wasn't doing that anymore. The first rumor came through a mutual friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. She messaged me out of nowhere. "Hey, just curious. Is everything okay with your sister's graduation? People are saying she's not walking." I didn't respond right away. I scrolled her message twice, closed it, then reopened it 5 minutes later just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't. 2 days later, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. "Please call me back. It's urgent." No explanation. No apology. Just urgency, like that alone would undo the silence that came before it. I didn't call. Instead, I sat with it. Let the silence answer for me. That weekend, I saw the first signs online. Her Instagram, once curated like a fashion blog, suddenly went quiet. No cap and gown photos. No pre-ceremony brunches. No sponsored posts from her favorite skincare brand. Instead, a black and white selfie. Captioned, "Still standing." Even when the world knocks you down. I recognized the pattern. The way she shaped narratives when things slipped. Always indirect. Always vague. Always leaving room for interpretation. Still, the pieces came together quickly. She hadn't been allowed to walk. Not with a tuition balance that large. Not without a payment plan on file. I found out later she tried to push it through, argued her case with the registrar. Cited email glitches, administrative errors, and incorrect billing, all of which might have worked if the university hadn't received my withdrawal confirmation directly. There wasn't a loophole. Just a bill. One she could no longer pass off. Her boyfriend's family got involved next, or, more accurately, they didn't. The same parents who'd flown her out to their lake house the previous summer, who sent her birthday gifts wrapped in designer ribbon, who once posted a photo of her at their holiday dinner with the caption, "Our bonus daughter," they stopped showing up. No tags. No comments. No likes. It was subtle at first, but obvious once you knew what to look for. People like them didn't step into financial messes. They stepped away. I heard from a friend of a friend that her boyfriend's mother had called it unsettling, that someone so well-spoken could be hiding such poor planning. There it was again. The same assumption I'd lived under for years. That being articulate meant you were together. That appearances covered the bill. Until they didn't. I don't know exactly when things shifted for her. Maybe it was when she called the financial aid office and they told her there was nothing they could do without payment. Maybe it was when her boyfriend's parents stopped returning her messages. Maybe it was when our dad had to admit he couldn't afford to bail her out. Because they tried. Of course they did. Our parents scrambled for days, piecing together whatever they could. My mom called my aunt to ask for a loan. My dad liquidated a portion of his investment account, the one he always said was for emergencies only. But it wasn't enough. They hadn't planned for this. They never had to, because I'd always been the plan. And now I wasn't. I watched it all from a distance. Not gloating. Not spiteful. Just aware. For the first time, the structure she'd built on borrowed money and assumed favors, was showing cracks. She posted another photo a few days later. A blurry shot of her walking across an empty campus lawn in a white dress. No cap. No cords. Just the caption, "Not all victories are visible." She turned off comments. It wasn't the fallout that struck me. It was how quickly it all came undone. The life she'd curated so carefully, the filters, the captions, the sponsored content, the hand-picked circle of admiration, it couldn't survive without reinforcement. And I had been that reinforcement. Not emotionally. Not socially. Financially. And now, without it, there was no scaffolding. For the first time in years, I didn't step in. I didn't send a text. Didn't check on her. Didn't offer to help patch the story back together. I just watched. Not because I wanted her to fall, but because I needed to know she could stand. The hard truth is that people like my sister don't often get consequences. They get explanations. Excuses. Support disguised as love and love disguised as guilt. But this time, the story didn't bend for her. And I didn't either. She sent me one more message. A single sentence. "I didn't think you'd actually cut me off." I didn't reply. Because what could I say that hadn't already been said? I'd stopped participating in a system that only worked when I stayed quiet. And now that it was broken, she wanted to talk. But conversation requires two people. And this wasn't a dialogue. This was a reckoning. And I wasn't there to soften it anymore. It was almost 4 months before I heard from her again. Not a call. Just a text. "Hey." Not looking for anything. Just wanted to talk. If that's okay. There was no punctuation. No emojis. No softening language. But it didn't sound like her usual voice either. I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I wasn't sure what I wanted from it anymore. She didn't owe me a performance. I didn't need her to grovel. But I also wasn't interested in circling back into a relationship that existed solely on her terms. I replied the next morning. Okay, that was it. She suggested a coffee shop halfway between our apartments. Neutral territory. I got there 10 minutes early, out of habit. She was already at a table when I walked in, hair pulled back, no makeup, a chipped water glass in front of her. No laptop. No sunglasses. No curated angle. Just her. She stood up when she saw me, like she wasn't sure if we were hugging or not. I didn't move toward her and she didn't push it. We sat. The silence wasn't heavy. Just unfamiliar. "Thanks for meeting me," she said. I nodded. "You said you wanted to talk." She paused, looked down at her hands. They were fidgeting with the edge of a paper napkin. "I got a job," she said. "It's not much. Just admin at a real estate office. But it's something." I waited. "I've been making payments," she added. "Slow, but steady. I've got the balance under 70 now." She said it like it meant something. Like chipping away at a mess she created was a kind of victory. And maybe it was. I didn't say congratulations. I didn't say I was proud of her. I just asked, "Why now?" She looked up. Not defensive. Just tired. "Because I realized I don't actually know how to stand on my own," she said. "And I think I blamed you for that. Because you made it look easy." I didn't correct her. It hadn't been easy. It had been exhausting. But I knew what she meant. "I'm not here to apologize," she added. "I mean, I should, but I don't even know where to start. I know things have to be different now. If we're going to have any kind of relationship." That word, if, hung in the air. I sipped my coffee. Let her sit with it. "I'm not interested in pretending nothing happened," I said finally. This isn't a reset. And I'm not stepping back into that old dynamic. I know. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be honest. No more invoices. No more guilt trips. And if you need something, ask. Don't assume. She nodded slowly. That's fair. It was the first time she'd ever agreed to a boundary without trying to edit it. The conversation wandered from there. She told me about her apartment, cheaper, farther from the city, but quiet. She was learning to cook. She'd deleted Instagram. Started taking the bus. Small things, but real ones. She didn't say much about our parents. Just that they were worried and that mom had started texting inspirational quotes in the mornings. I didn't ask for more. I wasn't ready to cross that bridge yet. After 40 minutes, we'd reached a rhythm. Not comfortable exactly, but not tense. When the check came, she instinctively reached for it, then stopped. I've got mine, I said. She didn't argue. We stood up, hovering near the door like people unsure how to say goodbye. I'm not asking for a second chance, she said quietly. I just don't want to be the person I was anymore. That part, at least, sounded sincere. I nodded. Then start there. She smiled. Not brightly. Not performatively. Just a flicker of something real. I'll let you know how it goes, she said. And for once, I believed her. We didn't hug. We walked in separate directions. I didn't feel relief or resentment. Just a quiet sense that something had shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was movement. And for now, that was enough. A few days later, she sent me a photo of a student loan statement with the updated balance. Underneath it, she'd written, progress. Not perfection. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. A year passed. Not all at once, but steadily. The way distance builds when you stop trying to close it. I didn't notice the change immediately. It showed up in small ways, like how my phone stopped buzzing at odd hours. Or how I could check my account balance without the usual undercurrent of mental math. No more emergency transfers. No more advance payments. No more quiet resentment disguised as generosity. For the first time in a long time, I was debt-free. My savings were intact. My weekends belonged to me again. I didn't spend them doing other people's paperwork or researching scholarship deadlines that weren't mine. I picked up pottery for no reason other than I wanted to. I started sleeping through the night. It wasn't dramatic. It was just peaceful. And the absence? That constant buzzing urgency to fix something, cover something, soothe someone, it faded. What replaced it wasn't bitterness. It was space. Mental, emotional, logistical. The kind that lets you focus on your own goals without constantly recalibrating around someone else's chaos. My parents eventually stopped bringing up the money. They'd test the waters occasionally, casual comments about how tight things were or how rent just keeps going up, but they never asked again. I think they knew. I think something had clicked, not in a big way, but in the quiet math they started doing after the fallout. The tally of what I'd covered. What they hadn't. What it had cost me. What they had expected. Now when we speak, it's lighter. Not more intimate, but less transactional. They tell me about their walks, their garden, the neighbor's dog who keeps getting into their yard. I ask questions. I listen. But I don't offer. Not unless I want to. And that's the difference. My sister is still working at the real estate office. She's moved into a smaller apartment in a quieter neighborhood. There's a used Corolla in her driveway. I know this because she posted it once. No hashtags. No aesthetic lighting. Just a photo with the caption, "First car I paid for myself." Her Instagram is quieter now. Sparser. Fewer outfits, more coffee cups. A lot of muted colors, soft filters. She's still online, but the tone has changed. She's not selling a version of herself anymore. Just sharing it. Occasionally. We text sometimes. Not often. Sometimes a meme, a one-line update, a look what I found kind of thing. She never asks for anything. I don't offer. That's the unspoken agreement. If we're rebuilding something, it has to be real. On solid ground this time. Last month, she messaged to say she'd finally brought the loan under 50. It'll be years, she said. But it's mine. I just replied, that's what matters. There's no part of me that wants her to fail. There never was. I just needed her to stand up. And I needed to step back far enough that she had no choice but to do it. People sometimes expect these kinds of stories to end with reconciliation. A tearful hug, a promise to do better, a perfect alignment. But real life doesn't work that way. My sister and I aren't best friends. We're not estranged either. We're just two people trying to rewrite the rules we were raised with. Slowly, cautiously, sometimes awkwardly. It's not a clean slate, but it's cleaner than what we had. And I think that's enough. As for me, I've stopped measuring my worth by what I can fix for other people. That's taken time. And practice. And a few stumbles where I almost stepped in out of reflex. But now, when someone turns to me with an open hand, I pause. I ask myself, am I being asked or am I being assumed? It's made me quieter. But sharper too. I don't need anyone to understand the full tally of what I gave. The hours. The energy. The weekends I traded in. The emails I wrote on her behalf. The account holds I negotiated out of. I know. And that's enough. I keep the university's confirmation email in a folder on my desktop. Not because I need it anymore, but because it reminds me what it looks like to draw a line. To follow through. That email didn't change my life. But it marked the moment I finally said no more. And meant it. Sometimes justice doesn't look like revenge. It looks like silence. Like walking away from the table and letting the chaos play out without you. It looks like watching someone learn what you've always known, that growth hurts. That independence has a price. That no one is coming to clean up the mess but you. Sometimes justice is just not answering the phone. Sometimes it's declining the invitation. Sometimes it's paying your own rent on your own timeline in your own name and expecting others to do the same. And sometimes, justice looks like freedom. Mine. If you've ever been the one holding it all together while getting nothing in return, this story was for you. Have you ever had to cut someone off to protect your peace? Did your family back you up or make you the villain? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. And if you're setting boundaries or learning to stand on your own, hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories just like this. Your story matters.